Hi there, my name is Neil Beck and the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share and subscribe and ring that little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. And, sometimes it's kind of like, it's kind of quiet. Sometimes it's kind of quiet here in the Founder Medicine YouTube and Doctor. It's kind of quiet and you're like grappling for things to make videos about. And normally when that happens, you go to the RadioTimes. The RadioTimes almost always has a ridiculously stupid article about Doctor Who. That is almost a complete lack of understanding of Doctor Who. So normally these are written by a gentleman by the name of Hugh Fullerton. But today we have a new contender, so I can't guarantee it's going to be as stupid as it is normally. But because we had so much going on recently, which I'll talk about shortly when we get into the video, because we had just so much going on recently, I had to wait like 2 days before I could actually make a video on this. So it's I'm a bit an embarrassment of riches. Of stupidity that I'm wading in right now. Fine. Before we get to it, can I ask you guys, can you hit that subscribe button? That would be fan-freaking-tastic. Thank you so much. I am actually genuinely really very very grateful for everybody who subscribes. I really am actually. I'm not, that's not a shtick. I actually really am. And I would have thought by now I would be like kind of a bit blasé about it. No. Every time I subscribe to got one, I'm like, I really am. It's I was going to say it's the silliest thing. It's actually kind of pathetic. It's actually kind of pathetic if you subscribe. But if you subscribe, other than making me very very happy. Firstly, you can enter my competitions. The prize right now, we're giving it away just over a week, is the Indiana Jones, the Adventure of the Indiana Jones DVD box set. This came out before the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and so it's not included. I think that makes it a better prize, quite frankly. Excellent bonus disc, by the way, of like just great documentaries, everything you want to know about Indiana Jones. Has got Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade. Wow, that was a real mindfuck. I just had Last Crusade on it. All you need to do to enter is, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to me. Awfully important from my perspective. Subscribe to the channel and in the comments leave the hashtag Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones. Somebody asked me which Dr. Jones. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Just write Dr. Jones. It's fine. And you might be thinking of Dr. Cliff Jones from the Green Death. It still works. Even if you put hashtag Dr. Cliff Jones, I'm still going to enter you for the prize drawing. Fine. By the way, there's an audio story in the video notes. Help yourself to it. It's a Tomorrow People story. It's really fun. It's made by Big Finish, but it's out of license, out of print. You can't get it anymore. I would say if they get the license back and you download and enjoy it, go and buy yourself a digital copy. And you know what? Go to Big Finish right now and buy yourself a digital copy. There's so much good stuff there. I didn't even get a chance to make a Big Finish guide this week. There's so much good stuff that's really, really cheap, which I would really, really recommend. Fine, let's look at this article, which is really quite fascinating, I think. Doctor Who's renewed success. Well, that renewed success kind of ebbed away now, hasn't it? Doctor Who is not successful anymore, is it? Listen. Yeah, I do have these conversations with people who really like the current era, and if they like it, that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, by every metric that we define Doctor Who as being successful, since it came back in 2005, every metric now says it's not successful. It's not popular. So it's that success kind of gone. It's gone, and I don't see it coming back anytime soon, especially if the rumours I heard are true, which I'll probably talk about any second now. Doctor Who's renewed success proves they were right to axe it in the 1980s. Actually, Russell T Davies, he met with Michael Grade once, and they basically got on. They basically said at the end, I think this was in one of the production notes he wrote, said, I can understand why he did axe it, even though I think the quality wasn't a real upswing. I think rather than axing it, they should have just pumped more resources into it. But really, the acting of it was really just get rid of John Nathan Turner. They couldn't get rid of him. They kept trying. But that's honestly, other than that, and Michael Gray absolutely hated it, and I can understand him hating it. Listen, I love seasons 25 and 26. I think even Summer 24, like Delta and the Bannerman, which is it's just kind of a guilty. But I do enjoy Delta and the Bannerman and Dragonfire. But that was when Doctor Who was really, at its, I would say, when it was really on its knees is the trial season. And I think what really brought it to its knees was the absolute hatred Eric Saywood had for John Nathan Turner. I don't think John Nathan Turner liked it, but John Nathan Turner, like the fuel that got him through the day, made him into this incredible presence. You got to read this book called The Life and Scandalous Times of John Nathan Turner, where I think Richard Molesworth is the author. He interviewed everybody, in fact, in Doctor Who that's connected to him. Everybody just speaks of him glowingly, lovingly. But I think the fuel that made that is being loved. He was a very loving person. He liked to be loved, and I think being hated by Saywood just really crushed him. And I think the result was season 23. Season 23, which I still think, other than until we got to the current era, the Chibnall Whittaker era, was the lowest point that Doctor Who reached. Which is what we're talking about right now. Which again, really. This is why this article is kind of stupid, because all you're really doing is drawing attention to how bad Doctor Who is right now. Again, saying bad is a subjective judgment. How unpopular Doctor Who is right now, which I think is probably at roughly the same levels that it was. And if they're able to make another season, the result will be exactly the same. There's nothing to indicate the fall in popularity, the fall in ratings, the fall in AI. The decline will stop. In fact, the decline, if anything, increases. I say this many, many times. The absolute worst thing that can happen for the current production team is for them to make and air new Doctor Who, because then everybody sees how awful it is. It's been what, a few months, been 4 or 5 months since the season ended, and people are people are kind of forgotten because it's not in front of them how absolutely awful it is. You put it in front of them, you put Jodie Whittaker's performance in front of them, and everybody goes, So if it stays on the trend it's on, which is probably, and that's if they're going to have to be lucky to do that. But if it stays on the trend they're on, they're going to open with a 30% lower opening. That's going to bring them down to 4.7. That's consolidated. Because nobody's watching the catch-up either. That's consolidated. And then as the season goes on, it'll probably get down to the low 3s, upper 2s, which is well below where this era, where it's cancelled was. So maybe you should have thought that through before writing this article, because really, to me, this is just pointing massive arrows at the Chibnall Whittaker era. It's probably that without the hiatus, the series would never have reached the heights it has. That's actually kind of fair. That is kind of. Although who knows? I still think Patterson Joseph, who was rumored to be the Doctor instead of Matt Smith, I think if they cast him when he was younger, like if you ever seen the Neil Gaiman BBC Two thing, Neverwhere, he was the Marquis de Carabas there. I just kept thinking, what a great Doctor Who that would be as if I watched it. I think that with a new production team and some confidence from the BBC, which it didn't have at all, would have really boosted it into the stratosphere. But that time off it had made it much easier for Russell T Davies to re-educate. Use that term, re-educate the British public that Doctor Who wasn't something with wobbly, bad, embarrassing production values, which I think is the first thing that made it be great. It was like saying we'd never seen anything British before that was that could stand toe to toe with its American contemporaries. And I think people were very excited by that. Fine, so let's read this article. So it's McCoy not looking happy there. This is season 25. Maybe this is season 25 video. This is by Morgan Jeffrey, or Jeffrey Morgan, I don't know. Doctor Who was universally in contempt by the powers that be, said late 1980 script editor Andrew Cartmel in 2019, which is, funnily enough, the exact opposite where it is now. They love this Doctor Who. It doesn't matter that it's so incredibly unpopular. It doesn't matter the creating it. They love it. Piers Wenger was a couple of his wonderful jewels of wisdom that came out of his mouth and said he's not going to hire a white man to be a lead. He's in anything while he's the director of program, whatever he is. Who knows? And he also says Doctor Who has never been in better health editorially. Really, honestly, I would say that when people jump out of a window rather than watch Doctor Who, which essentially that's what happened. You had Country File on, and that got decent ratings, right? Doctor Who came on, people were just jump out the window it doesn't matter if they're on like the 30th floor. They no, and they come Doctor Who, but they would like climb back up and tend to their wounds. And by the time call the midwife came on, and the razor would go again. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They freaking love it, which is as opposed to the ladies, they absolutely hated it. And I wonder if it again is a combination of hating Doctor Who or hating John Nathan Turner. I think it's kind of like a combination of the two. Funny, John Nathan Turner said that they offered him Bergerac. I don't think he was telling the truth. I don't think he was telling the truth. He said they offered me Bergerac, but they said I'd only do it if they could recast John Nettles, who was like this incredibly beloved actor fulfilling the title role, and move it from Jersey, which was it Jersey or Guernsey? Jersey. Which is like that was the pitch of the show. John Nettles playing a detective, so I just don't believe that actually happened. I think he said that to Andrew Cartmel so he didn't look like he lost so much face. I tell you, I feel really bad for John Nathan Turner. I really do. In 2019, when reflecting on the show's final years, it's extraordinary to say that now, when it's sort of a jewel of the crown, but Doctor Who was just beyond the pale. It's true, yeah. But again, it's not. Again, it's jewel of the crown now, but not only with the BBC, not with the audience. But again, we don't matter. Let's just be really clear. We're the BBC, and I think everybody in their little bubble, what they think of us. We don't matter. We don't matter at all. It doesn't matter. We don't like it. It's a bit embarrassing for them at the time, but they get over it. It doesn't matter. BBC's one-time apathy towards Doctor Who is all the more incredible when you consider that as of this month, the series has been back on television for as long as it was off air, give or take the 1960s. Yeah, that's fair enough. 15 years. But I don't know. 15 years from its magnificent return of Russell T Davies's Rose. The show remains an international success story. Okay, you pre-sold Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who. Nobody, including myself, knew how awful it would be. I actually thought it would be good. I was excited for it. Nobody, actually, a few people, there were a few canaries in the mine, and we said they're wrong, we said they're sexist, blah, blah, blah. They all turned out to be right. Every one of them turned out to be right. That's really the biggest embarrassment for the current Doctor Who. The only reason it hasn't been cancelled, in my opinion, is because they are contractually obligated to deliver 10 episodes to HBO and to that Chinese media company. Oh God, the 10 episodes they're going to deliver, they do not think they're gonna notice how much the audience hated the Timeless Children. Yeah, right now the Timeless Children, you're able to just shunt off, say, oh, it's pre-Hartnell, it's you can ignore it somehow. They're gonna the rumor I've heard, and the rumor I believe, is these Timeless Children, these missing Doctor Who regenerations that were there, however many billions of them, however many are, they're gonna be peppered through the entirety of Doctor Who, like in between Pertwee or Troughton, or maybe during a story. I don't know how they're going to do it. But then again, none of us knew how they were going to make William Hartnell not the first Doctor and replace him with and replace him pointedly with a dark-skinned woman. Which was clearly the intention, because they're racist. They are racist. I don't know. But then again, would it have ever reached the heights if it hadn't been allowed to rest and return, refreshed and revamped? It took. It should. Yeah, really. That the McGann movie got incredibly good ratings. There was already a massive appetite for them. But however, BBC right then was being run by schedulers, by bean counters, and people with no creative spark or understanding. And that's essentially why for 15 years we didn't have any good telefantasy, because they were like, I don't understand it, and so that's why we didn't have it. Really, Crime Traveller, that's the best you got. It's no slight on Sylvester McCoy era to suggest that perhaps it wasn't such a bad thing that Doctor Who was allowed to rest when it did. Honestly, I would have liked to see him go another couple of years. He was a really, although Big Finish has done us proud. If anything, having begun to take the risk and experiment with storytelling tone, the show was actually starting to find its feet again in the 88, 89 years. in 1988 and 1989 after a troubled preceding years. Oh yeah, okay. Me and Morgan Jeffrey, or Jeffrey Morgan, we're agreeing with each other here. Okay, again, it was really a tragedy. However, you have to say the tone that season 25 and 26 created really created the new adventure, the Virgin new Adventures range, which is fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. It's a bit of a forgotten era now. After I finish doing my Big Finish guys, I think I might start doing that, doing guys to that lost era, because it's a great lost era. You know, I hear that Rebecca Levine, who was the editor of that range, has moved into TV and has been working. I think Emmerdale, maybe she's a producer. I would really like to see what she would do with Doctor Who, because she's got good form to me. You know, she produced good Doctor Who once. Let's see. And again, it's the BBC are racist. The BBC and their whole bubble are racist, and so they see white men as being bad. So you know, if you're a woman, you do get a leg up. If you're black, you totally get a leg up. You know, it's weird. I saw this thing on Twitter yesterday where this woman was complaining that if you're not a white male, you have a disadvantage in television. Really, it's in behind the scenes. I see no barrier to entry whatsoever. I think she was saying that it's not fair to judge people who aren't white men's scripts equally with people who are white men. I think that's why it's so weird. Oh my god! Again, I grew up in the 80s. All this talk of like skin color and gender and sexuality, it was all like kind of a little bit off at the time. It was like it was beneath us to do that. How the world has fallen. Fine. By the time the support from the BBC, But at the time, the support from BBC just wasn't there. Cartmel also alleged the show's then creative team were left completely alone. And boy, did it show. It was great. What's this season that came out on Blu-ray? Season 26, really good. Listen, if you don't know season 25, 26, they're great seasons. Go and check them out. They're really, I mean, here's a tragedy of season 25, 20. I was watching Curse of Fenric the other night. Is that they're just so cheaply filmed. They're filmed on like this cheap video, and there's not much you can do to get around that. And they try, but it's just got this real cheap feel to it. I wonder if there's some kind of filter they can put on it to make it look like not cheap. It's a real tragedy, because those scripts are excellent. We're left completely without much outside influence, outside interference. We used to have to show a tape to the head of drama. He'd just take a call and he'd watch it, which was good in a way because it just left us to our own devices. Was BBC right to cancel Doctor Who? It would be now. Oh, you know what? Rather than see them carry on with this, I would so rather see it cancelled. I really would, because it's just, if they pepper the Time as Children throughout the history of Doctor Who, the only real option they have is a racist entire era, and no one's ever going to do that. No one's going to. Right now you can just about have a future production team that will forget about all of this, right? But it's just going to be weird if they forget about all of this. And they do this, I think they might have to just reboot the show completely, or erase this era. Either way, to me, if this happens, and I think it probably almost certainly is, I got the same feeling when I heard the whole Heart Wars and the First Doctor thing anymore. I really think it's the case. If this happens, this really is R.I.P. Doctor Who. That's just like, forget it. It's over at that point. Regardless of how significantly it was flourishing on a creative level, Doctor Who in the late 80s was never going to be doing enough to turn the tide of opinion. Again, the ratings right now are not so far from the ratings then. They're really not. They're in about 1 million. They're in that ballpark. And then it was reviled and tucked away in a corner. I would love to see what McCoy would have done with a similar sort of budget. Comparatively for 88, 89, and that comfortable, cushy Sunday time slot, in the middle of winter. I'd love to see what he would have done. I think he would have doubled the current ratings. I really do. Why? Because it's just better. It's well written. I was never going to be doing enough to turn the tide. Possibly the show's cancellation meant that we missed out on some incredible adventures of the 90s, 1990s. We'll never know. Well, I do know. Go and check out the new Adventures. And we'll never know. But it seems deeply improbable that BBC would have suddenly discovered a newfound respect for the series that encouraged it to dig deeper and give Doctor Who a little consideration, but the funding it probably deserved. You know what it took? It took one impressive person to make a good pitch. Yeah, I think if somebody could pitch to Michael Grade how they can make this wobbly, embarrassing show, which it was a wobbly, embarrassing show for him, they can make it into a hit, into a water cooler TV, which it could have. I think that pitch could have been made. I think it would have got more consideration. More like the show would have remained the BBC's problem child, looked upon as best as a relic of worse than embarrassment. Well, that's really where it was. No matter how incorrect either of those assumptions were. Exactly. The sets, I really have never seen them wobble in Doctor Who, and I've seen a lot. I've seen all of Doctor Who. I don't really remember seeing the sets wobble, but that is the thing. They say the sets wobble. That's the impression people have. Again, Russell T Davies dispelled that impression. That was his active goal, was to dispel that impression. I think that's what made Doctor Who so successful. And now Chris Chibnall has dispelled the impression that Doctor Who is a fun, delightful show, and instead he's made it into a dour preach. Listen, if you like Greta Thunberg and think she's stunning and brave, you're going to love this Doctor Who. If you think gender and sexuality are fluid for the entirety of humans, or even the majority of humans, you're probably going to love this Doctor Who. If you think that, the current elections that we see in the Western world since 2016, but in America and in England, are the worst things ever, you're probably going to love this Doctor Who. If you're part of the other half of the country, you're going to be like, not so much. And if you're part of the entirety of the country that doesn't like seeing boring, dour, preachy dross, you're not really going to like it. But again, if you fit into that little Twitterati bubble, then you're going to love it, which is who they make it for. And that's why it doesn't get that much ratings anymore. But that's also why it took so long for the ratings to decline. You had to retrain the British public that this is not worth watching at all. And, hats off to you there. You're doing a great job. But having show got there for 15 years, the public and BBC had time to miss Doctor Who. They missed it by 96. The Paul McGann movie did very well. I think it got like 9.5 million ratings, which was huge. It did very well. So there was an eagerness for it back then, but I think the eagerness for it to be done with a decent production values. I don't think BBC could have done it alone at the time. At some point during those wilderness years, it stopped being merely an old show and became classic television. What happened was this. The people who grew up watching Doctor Who and loving Doctor Who, like Stephen Moffat, Russell T Davies, Mark Gatiss, even Paul Cornell, who I can't stand Paul Cornell, but I love his work. All these people, they grew up and they knew it was classic, and these were the people coming in to television. That's why I was hopeful. Before I heard this horrible, maybe it'll come back. I was hopeful that one day Doctor Who will come back. One day it's gonna come back because we're gonna see the kids who watch David Tennant, who watch Christopher Eccleston, who watch Matt Smith, grow up and become writers and move into the industry. And hopefully the pendulum will have swung against this disgusting racism, and sexism, and identity politics that so cloud the minds of the idiots making it. A vintage show worthy of reviving, though one should never underestimate what a peerless job Russell T Davies did in the revival of Doctor Who. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, it's interesting. When he went through his initial meetings about reviving, when he decided to do it, there's a bunch of executives, he said, that they just assumed they're going to get Tom Baker to play Doctor Who, and he's like, "Oh, I hadn't really thought of that." And he's, they just assumed that that's what they were going to do. Though, BBC are generally a bit clueless. When they started releasing like the telesnaps of the missing stories, they put them out on the internet. They wanted the executives wanted to make it so you can put your snaps together and make your own story. Like, just so completely completely misunderstand the audience. Thank God. Who was it? Simon Cole. Simon Cole was there to go, let's do that next. Let's do this first. Did with the Rise of anticipation for the series return was high before anyone had seen a single frame. Yeah, that ad campaign, which he was completely in control of, because he talked about it a lot in production notes in Doctor Who magazine. He was everything was really thought out. You know how well it was thought out? He actually said, let's make the Dalek bases like 3 inches wider, like just this fine detail, which is like it's incredible that he was able to see. Far higher than it would have been for a full obviously a full Sylvester McCoy series in 1990. Obviously. The break also allowed Davis to bring back Doctor Who in a form more befitting of television of the time. Yeah, it made it contemporary. In fact, I've just finished watching season 1. I'm on season 2. It is so contemporary 2005, especially season 1. In a form of the original series began in the early 60s. 25 to 30 minute dramas weren't all that exceptional, but by the late 80s, few still held on to that format outside of Doctor Who and the soaps. Yeah, and I think they did try to make it a 45-minute show, but in season 22, but it didn't work. The scripts weren't punchy enough. They should have been. They should have been individual stories, mostly with one or two. Basically, the template that Russell T Davies did. Okay, that's what they should have done. I remember once reading a Christopher Bynamede, saying how much he didn't like the 2005 series, or like critiquing something about the Russell T Davies era. I was like, really, Chris, listen, don't get me wrong. I like Warriors Gate. It's a bit, it's not like crowd pleasing. yeah. This is a bit better than what you did. The show's 25. Still hold on to that. Soaps, fine. I found my place. The classic shows, predominantly more plot-focused narratives, were also landed better at its beginning and its end, with sci-fi fans of the 1980s having grown used to a more nuanced emotional storytelling. That's what they had, though. I mean, like whole Ace arc, that's really what it was. The likes of which Davies would later employ in 2005 onwards. I have to tell you, Survival, which was the last televised story in '89, really segs very, very well into Rose. It has a lot of real similarities. It's very, very contemporary. Again, it's possible that Doctor Who might have gradually evolved to better match the modern TV landscape had it stayed on air. Unlikely. Again, you need like a change of regime. You need a will to do it, and there wasn't one. But the break served as a natural cut-off point, a time to take stock and consider which parts of the show were essential and which could change. Yeah, that's fair enough. Oh, God, how much longer is this dross? Okay, fine, we're nearly at the end. Okay. In a classic example of opportunity rising out of adversity, the absence of Doctor Who on television also saw many fans begin to apply their talents to spin-off projects away from the small screen, and many later going on to work on Davis' revived series. Yeah, Big Finish. Big Finish was really a great place to get new Doctor Who writers. It's hard to imagine, for example, there you go, look at Great Minds Think Alike, or Fools Seldom Differ. Big Finish being granted the license to produce original Doctor Who in 1999. If the television show, I remember, Nick Briggs talking at one time saying it was the 35th anniversary, it was 1998, and everyone was just really depressed. There was like, the McGann movie failed, essentially. Well, I liked it. It failed to make a new series. And Doctor Who was really thought to be dead at this point. There's going to be no new Doctor Who yet, the novels. And they knew, walking around the convention when everyone was depressed, they'd, we're nearly there. We're nearly there. We can tell people. But they had to wait another year to tell people. I think it was early in the year as well. I remember it being cold when I read the announcement in Doctor Who magazine, of course. If the television show were still on there, which would have not only denied us hours of fantastic stories, it might have meant the likes of Nicholas Briggs, who emerges as the go-to voice of Daleks during the period, and continue to win plaudits and fan critics for his work, might never have been hired to work on TV series. I happen to think that he would have been hired to work on the TV series, because he really wanted to. Wanting to do something is a big motivation. The reason Pierce Bronson, I think, was such a good James Bond. I really liked him as James Bond. And they came back to him after he couldn't take the role when Timothy Dalton took it instead. Was because he really, really wanted to play the role of James Bond. Funnily enough, that's why I think Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki, amongst other things, fantastic actor, would be a great Bond because he really wants to play James Bond. With the benefit of hindsight, then this isn't as dumb as an average Hugh Fullerton story. Morgan Jeffrey or Jeffrey Morgan, whoever you are, you should be writing more. And Hugh Fullerton, his stuff is just dumb. I'm sorry. With the benefit of hindsight, then it does feel as though whatever the reason behind the BBC putting Doctor Who on the pass in 1989, allowing the show to rest for a period, did ultimately benefit it in the long run. Wait a minute, I just have an idea. Could this be preparing the ground? I bet you it is. It's preparing the ground for a hiatus, which I don't think they may have decided on already, but I think if they can make it, they will make it. I think this is preparing the ground for a hiatus. If so, thank God, thank goodness. Help to rest, of course. Let's be clear, there was no upside to the show disappearing off our screens permanently. If that was ever threatened, I'll be the first one to sign a petition. Picket Broadcasting House and buy a copy of Doctor in Distress 2020 remix. It's gonna be rested. I think that's what it's saying. I think it's gonna be rested. I think I just found the title for this video. Okay, I'm sorry you had to go through the whole video before I actually got to the point, but I had to work it out for myself. This is the trouble that you have. When you do things on the fly, I had to work it out for myself. That's certainly gonna be the title of my video. There you go. My name is Sheila Beckin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop, and have yourself a fantastic day.